Alrighty, everybody. Welcome. So, we're going to try something. We're going to set up the chat from the very beginning. I'm going to set a default slow mode. I'm not going to set a subscriber mode to start out with, but we will set a default 15-second slow mode to prevent messages from going too quickly by. And this should also help make it more obvious when I should actually turn on the full idiot mode. But as of right now, I think that's sufficient. I think that'll be enough. Yeah, so I'm on all messages and I've got the slow mode set. Now let's see how long it takes us to find a group of people to talk to. This will make them go away. I think we're alone now. There doesn't seem to be anyone around. I think we're alone now. There we go. I didn't mean to turn on any sub mode, but apparently I had it on a minor sub mode. Here we go. So we got some weird news out today. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with things. Number one, the tsunamis everybody thought was going to happen because of that big earthquake, those didn't happen. So that's good. For once, we have some good news to report here on the Phoebe Ophi channel. You know, normally it's all just a depressing slew through horrible news and bad things happening in the world. But for once today, we actually have some good news, you know? A tsunami could have happened and it didn't happen. I mean, some tsunamis happened, but they were very short. I didn't even know a tsunami could be just 3 feet high. Maybe I misunderstand tsunami measurements. That's one of the things that occurred to me when I was reading through the news about it and everything and the coverage. I was thinking maybe I just misunderstood. Wave, that means literally 3 feet worth. And a lot of places that wouldn't even wash over the first beachhead, you know? Hola. ¿Cómo estás? Find God. It's funny, if you talk to me long enough, you might find that there's a lot of Christ, if not God, in my philosophy. There's a whole lot of that sort of thing mixed into the way I think about things and the way I believe, and especially the way I want to treat people and the way I think people should be treated. But of course, nobody wants to sit around and listen to someone actually explain their beliefs. They would rather decide what that person's beliefs are for themselves and declare that by fiat, as if it means anything. Hey, Phoebe, I was worried about tsunamis after the earthquake, too. I mean, I wasn't really worried about it personally, so I couldn't be better isolated from the effects of a tsunami. But it was kind of worrying, you know, for people that are on the West Coast, you know. I mean, a friend of the channel and, like, internet acquaintance of mine, Paul Zico, is, like, right in Washington on the coast as far as I know, and that's kind of a scary fucking thing to think about, you know, like a giant tsunami, especially because I know Paul in particular has like nightmares about that kind of thing. So I'm really glad to know that no big tsunamis happened. It was relatively small waves and it washed away with minimal destruction. That's good. It's the lesbian bartender from Shrek? Yes, actually. Yes, you have correctly identified me. Man, some of these people think they're fucking hilarious. Some of these people think they're fucking hilarious, like the constant Peter Griffin jokes when I don't even look like the motherfucker. The constant lay off the cheeseburgers without even asking if that's my drug of choice, you know? They're not even gonna ask if that's the way I got fat. They're just gonna assume. Because every fucking American must have gotten fat off of cheeseburgers, right? The little assumptions we all make about one another. It's really not dead on. I don't have the same kind of glasses. I don't have the same hairstyle. I don't have the same, like, build, you know? Settle down, petter? Well, perhaps I'll learn to take you seriously when you learn how to spell. Anyway, now that there's some people here, make sure you guys hit that like button. It really does help. Every single time you hit that like button is another chance to send this out to even more people, to make it even more interesting by virtue of increasing the number of people interacting in the chat. And if you want to be part of that conversation, the best way to do it is by consistently asking questions, and you can super chat if you want to make absolutely sure that your message gets read. That's a great way to do it. I read every single message as long as it doesn't violate TOS. Yeah. So hit those buttons. Do the things. And with that being said, I'm going to turn on sub mode in order to make things just a little more readable, basically. People are going to cry, censorship, censorship, but it's literally a 1 minute sub mode. If you can't subscribe for 1 minute to talk shit in the chat, are you really going to be producing anything in this chat worth my reading anyway? Probably not. Here comes the hateful morons here. They come to try and ruin our day. But they don't understand that my ego is bigger than anything that they've ever seen. They think about the Grand Canyon. They think about the Empire State Building. They think about the mighty Himalayas. But my ego's bigger than all three. But my free speech, I know, I know, I know, it sucks, doesn't it? Somebody enforces a standard on their own community, conservatives in tears, MAGA in shambles. It's like, stop being pussies, man. Literally, MAGA people, just stop being pussies. Very simple solution. Stop being pussies. Engage with me. I don't ban anybody out of here just for disagreeing with me. I don't ban anybody in here just for making a point, no matter how hateful it might be. Now, if you're literally just repeating stupid-ass channel memes, yeah, I mean, you're breaking one of the rules at that point. You're not being original. But if you can be readable, original, and interesting, man, do I love to argue. But too many of you people are pussies, and that's the problem that we have. Too many of you feel slighted by the requirement to subscribe for a minute so that we can be assured that you're putting at least a little bit of skin in the game. I'm Maggie. How you doing? I'm good. I'm good. It could be cooler, not gonna lie. Got a little wet towel here that I've been using to, like, wipe my face, Cenk Uygur style. They say you are what you eat. In that case, I'm a big old pot of red beans and rice and a big old plate of fried chicken and mashed potatoes. Thank you for sharing the bird sounds. It's too hot here to go outside. Honestly, Emily, it's not that much better. I'm not going to lie. Where I'm at is pretty toasty and warm and humid in and of itself, but it has finally gotten cool enough now that the evening is here that I can sit out here comfortably. Let me see here. Phoebe, I'm working on a radio telescope. Advice? Uh, uh, Follow all relevant ISO standards? I don't know. I'm not a radio tech. I never worked on any kind of radio technology. I do have a little bit of network expertise, but that's not going to help you. You know, you need somebody smarter than me, or at least better versed in that particular subject matter. But I do appreciate the $2. Thank you for that. Hi, buddy. You talk about the original content, so let's talk about the people who cut in line are sociopaths, shall we? I don't think people who cut in line are sociopaths, but I do think that you have to be stunningly socially unaware in order to cut in line. You know, it's one thing if you come up to a line and you see how long it is, and like you're a disabled person or something like that, you see how long it is, and you're like, oh fuck, you start moving towards the back of the line, but somebody lets you cut in front of them. That's like completely allowable. That's completely fine. But if you just like insert yourself at whatever point in the line you want to exist in, that's an asshole maneuver. Totally asshole maneuver. I don't think it's such an asshole maneuver that you have to be a sociopath to do it, but I do question somebody's ability to empathize with other people if they're willing to engage in such socially deleterious activity so casually. Your food description, I'm going to guess Popeye's chicken. Man, I love how the fucking culture that we live in these days has made it us that it is so fucking inconceivable in people's minds that anyone could be fat eating anything other than fucking fast food. Because so many of us are used to that. So many people are addicted to fast food. That's their only fucking food source. And so they assume that's true of everybody else. I got news for you, motherfucker. I ain't fat because I got an addiction to McDonald's. I'm fat because I've got an addiction to really fucking calorically dense homemade foods. And if you don't believe me, join my membership and look back through some of my posts and look at some of the delicious shit I make. I was born and bred in the deep south where food is rich and calorically dense and really tasty, and I've never turned down a big old plate of that. Homemade food will fatten you? I know. That's what I'm saying. People think the only way you can get fat is by eating a bunch of fast food, and it's just ridiculous. Well, the fucked up thing is, now everybody wants to give me weight loss advice, when the fact of it is, I've lost 40 pounds over the last year. So how about you leave my weight loss progress to me? I will continue to make progress at whatever level I'm comfortable, and you can check back in a year or two and see if I've lost enough weight for you to consider me a valid person to have a conversation with, or whatever the fuck. Do you take dabs or just smoke flower? I'll do both. By the way, Corey, I'm really sorry for going off on you in the comments the other day. I don't know if you even saw it. I don't know if it's a comment I'll have to approve because I was kind of mean in it. But I was like really sick that day and really hobbled and just felt awful. And I was kind of mean to you in a comment response. So I wanted to apologize for that because I was reading back through my comments today and I was like, ooh, that was mean. I didn't need to be that way with Corey. Corey's cool. Poor man's Paul over here. Ooh, which of the hate subreddits are you from, my friend? The hater subs are you? Poor man's Paul. If I was a petty person who cared more about getting a win on you than I do about my like association with Paul as a fellow content creator, I could like dunk on you totally, you know? Like just man, what a weird thing to say. What a weird thing to say. Who is Paul? I don't blame any of you for being really confused right now, but this person who said, let me see here, where are they at? Jams Twink 18 said poor man's Paul. They're talking about Paul Zigo, who is a YouTube creator that does this exact same kind of content. It's I openly credit him with being the pioneer, as far as I know, of this kind of like talk to the chat. I understand that other people were doing it before him, but we went through a day on stream, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was like, yeah, but you were doing it before then, and then yeah, but you were doing it before then too, and well, yeah, but you were doing this before that, and finally got him to admit, yeah, okay, yeah, maybe I am one of the pioneers of that, and I forgot where I was going with that. Fuck, I hate it when this happens. Stoner problem. Anyway, point is, I don't blame any of you guys for being totally confused right now because, like, my audience is not the same as Paul's audience. It's funny, despite all the claims of me being a hanger-on of Paul's or whatever, I have actually managed to gain more notoriety on my own outside of the community than anybody that has ever risen up in that community as far as a content creator. As I do. As far as I know, Marshall Manson never had 5,000 subs or more. Maybe he did at one point. Hasn't for a long time. Wait, Phoebe, how did you grow up in the Deep South then? Wasn't it hard being, being trans and such? I mean, I wasn't out as trans when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't come out as trans until I was 21. So I grew up down here in Mississippi until I was like 14. And my parents got divorced. I moved up to Missouri, lived there for like 7 years or so. Started living in a minivan and traveling all over the United States when I was a little over 22. And then lived in Massachusetts for a little while. That was really cool back in 2023. And then moved back down to Mississippi just a few years back. At the end of 2023, actually. So do you like dab or flower more? You get carried away apologizing? Yeah, no, that's true. I'm bad about that kind of thing. I get fucking distracted very easily. This is why it's great for me to have somebody, it would be great for me to have a co-host or something like that because they could help me stay on topic. But which one do I like more? I would say flower, honestly, because it's more versatile. You can pretty much only do dabs with like 2 or 3 things, like there's electronic vaporizers. Those come in all kinds of different mechanisms. There are ones that fit onto bongs and fire with a button or a remote or whatever the fuck. There are ones that are just like bowls that you load up. There are ones that are designed to be more like vapes or almost like a mod or something. And I feel like with flower, there's just so much more you can do with it because like you can vaporize flower. You have to get a herb vaporizer, but still, you can vaporize flower. You can roll flour in a blunt or a joint or a cone. You can pack flour into a bowl, either a little pipe like this or a bong bowl. I mean, there's just so many fucking options when you're talking about flour. You can mix flour and you can mix flour and dabs together and get something entirely new called moon rocks, and then that you can either vaporize or you can smoke it as a little topping to a bowl or something. So many options, so many different ways. Why leave the Northeast, bro, for the Deep South? Because fucking economics, honestly. Because I was never going to own a damned thing in Massachusetts. But my parents got back together and they moved back onto the old farm. And, I had always wanted to, I'd always longed for the ability to come back here and develop the land and make it better and all that, right? And, I really took to the farm when I was a kid, and I was pretty much the only one of my dad's kids that did. And so it was almost like poetic, they're getting up in their years, and I'm getting to the age where I'll be starting a family and stuff. I have a son now, but I'm talking about me when I was like 2 years ago, right? So economics, basically. It was the knowledge that I would be building something that I would own. Something that's not mortgaged, something that's not rented, something that's my own. Are you comfortable? You mean sitting out in this fucking humid ass, hot ass weather? Or do you mean like comfortable monetarily? I mean, I would say my family's income enough. We're pretty fucking poor, but so are most Americans, especially in comparison to the billionaire class. Um, we don't want for nearly as much as some people do, or at least some people did back when I was a kid. Like, I'll put it this way: my son is in a way better position than I was at his age. Our living situation is a bit more stable than um, what I had when I was a baby. So I think that means something. Maybe that's progress in a sense. You have a son. Yeah, I do have a child, but I don't like to talk about it too much for obvious reasons. Like, I don't like to talk about the fact that I have a kid that often, just because it seems like an avenue through which people will eventually be creepy. Yeah, like, when I'm talking about, like, as far as life plans and shit like that, you know, it's part of my considerations. What would it be like to live in the caveman days? I don't know. I think it depends on the region, honestly. I think it depends entirely on the geography that surrounds you and where you're at in quote unquote caveman days. The more centrally you're located towards the equator and the closer you are to coastal areas, the better and easier your survival probably is. And the more extreme the environment, the more difficult your survival is. But human beings are nothing if not experts at taming the wilderness. So we lived like that for a very, 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 very long time before we developed agriculture and the civilization that came with agriculture. Caveman days was probably okay, honestly. Like, it doesn't seem like deer find their lives altogether too miserable, and they have less than a cave. Did you see that researchers found an area near Denver, Colorado, where dinosaurs used to use as like a dance floor to compete for mates? No, that's actually really cool, Spooky. I do know that there's a shit ton of fossil activity in that region of the Rockies / the Midwest. There's a shit ton. Like, Kansas has a lot of fossil sites. New Mexico has a lot of fossil sites. Texas has a lot of fossil sites. Colorado has a lot of fossil sites. So it's kind of cool that they're finding more stuff like that. I mean, every little thing we find in regards to the ancient dinosaurs, every little thing we find in ancient life in general, pretty much just builds upon what we already understand to be an incredibly complex picture of what life must have been like millions of years ago. Millions and millions. Listen to Boogie Back to Texas. I can't listen to it right now. Let's get rid of Kosen YouTube. Oh man, see what I mean? See what I mean when I say people are going to be creepy? How did all this start for you? When you say all of this, what do you mean? Because you could mean streaming, you could mean me being out as trans, you could mean a lot of different things. So I have to ask for clarification. They found scratches on the ground that they said are like a moonwalk with a little spin. I'm just over here imagining a dino disco. Well, if you think about it, right, the only dinosaurs that remain extant to the birds, and birds are incredibly complex, and some birds have incredibly elaborate mating dances that they do in order to secure courtship. And so the idea that more basal dinosaurs might have had these same behaviors. To me, it's just like a very natural thing. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, at what point do we assume they don't have these behaviors anymore? And really, I don't think there's a fair way to say, you know, because apparently those behaviors don't matter as much in certain lineages. Because, for example, a lot of the ground feeding birds don't have any kind of courtship activity at all, really. There's very little, like, there's mate competition among the males, but it's not something that the females are actively participating in. There's no degree of, like, female mate choice or anything going on for a lot of ground feeding birds. I'm talking chickens and things like that. But then some birds are completely opposite, where they have to win the affections of any given female in their midst, right? Dinosaurs definitely had feathers, and they definitely did flamboyant elaborate dances for lady dinosaurs. Well, we do know that a lot of dinosaurs had feathers. A lot of dinosaurs that we previously thought were not feathered have been found with more preserved remains that show feathering. So feathers, yes. Sexy dances for lady dinosaurs? Well, you know, one set of tracks and one impression about those tracks does not necessarily a standard make. But, you know, the more stuff we find that corroborates this finding, the more likely it is that sexy dances for lady dinosaurs were in fact happening. All the way back 250 million. Excuse me. By the way, if you want to make absolutely your message gets read, consider sending a super chat. It's a great way to financially support the channel and say you appreciate what we're doing over here, trying to foster interesting conversations. But it's also a great way to make sure your message gets read, because the chat can go by rather quickly here sometimes. Hello, I'm. At first, I thought you said hello, I'm black, and I was like, hi. Strange way to introduce oneself, but hi. Sorry, this chat is not a Tesla marketing zone. One message about it would be one thing, but if you're gonna sit here and recite the entire fucking pamphlet to us, I'm afraid I'm gonna have to ban your dumb ass. Nice. Nice, Danny. Yeah, this is great content for that sort of thing, but I'm sorry that you have to deal with listening to my train at the same time. And this one, long train. I ended it. I ended it with my voice. Okay, that's the narrative we're going with. Tonight, yes, 100%. No wonder I've attracted subscribers. There's a train in at least every other stream. Phoebe, what was your dream job as a kid? I went through a fucking series of dream jobs as a kid. I started out wanting to be an entomologist. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically someone who studies bugs for a living. And I wanted to do that, and then I wanted to be a marine biologist, because I got it in my head that marine biologist means that you get to look at cool fish all day. right? I thought that was like the basics of it. I didn't even know how to swim. I just liked cool fish, and I had an aquarium, and that made me want to be a marine biologist. And then I kind of found out more about it. I was like, nah, entomologist still sounds pretty cool though. But then I started to lose interest in bugs as like an item of like pure wonder for me. And then I started to be like, okay, well, maybe I'll be a video game designer. And that was my fucking dream job for a while. And then probably around the time I was like 15, I started to become more and more realistic about it. So the last dream job that I had that I kind of still play with, maybe, the video game designer one, because like even though I didn't stick with that very long at all, I still think it would be an interesting pursuit. I know that I'm not the kind of person that would be able to sustain interest long enough to learn all of the different fucking programming languages I would need to learn. Plus I would be getting started super fucking late in my life or something like that. A lot of people don't start working in that industry until they're my age, but they've been going to college since they got out of high school. So I'm like 10 years behind anybody else that would be starting that process. It's fucking just absurd, you know. But I think that if I had $1 million, or more like a couple billion, if I ever came into fuck you money, I would definitely love to be like a producer or something like that, somebody that like helps the drawing board along, but really isn't doing anything else. That would be cool. Should have hopped on and got out of Mississippi. Yeah, well, hard to do. Hard to do when your whole family's in a place and you've got the setup that I do. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's kind of a shame. We got all of those people in here. We were talking about crazy shit, going through it, and I had some political stuff in the title today, and we didn't even end up getting any of it because the chat was just incomprehensible for a while. He's mentally ill. I think you mean she, my friend. Yes, I demand comprehensibility. Why do people care about Kamala not running? Because Kamala was the last big front runner of the Democratic Party, and because people are looking to the Democratic Party, pointlessly, in my opinion, to be a bastion of goodwill and generosity and freedom in the face of Trump's in the face of Trump's authoritarian tendencies, people are looking to the Democratic Party to be a bulwark against all of that. And like I said, in my opinion, they're doing that pointlessly because I don't think the Democratic Party has demonstrated a whole lot of capacity for that kind of thing. And so the fact that Kamala Harris is not seeking to take over from Gavin Newsom, I mean, that's honestly notable for more reasons than just this alone, but this angle of it, right, is important. People look at Kamala Harris as like the natural continuation of the Joe Biden presidency. Um, they're like she's the last big candidate, so she's the last big person on everybody's minds, just like Hillary Clinton was the big person on everybody's minds for the 4 years of the first Donald Trump presidency. During the first Trump presidency, you remember, nobody could shut up about Hillary, and the reason was because she was the last big Democrat. So she was the figurehead in people's minds of opposition to Trump. Now that started to change with time, and by the time 2020 rolled around, you know, she learned her lesson. No more Hillary run. But the American people didn't really get over that issue until the 2020 election started to spin up. It was when the 2020 election started to spin up that people started moving on from Hillary Clinton and finding new demagogues in the Democratic Party. And so people are in that cycle with Kamala Harris right now. And so there are a lot of people on the left, luckily I'm not one of them, that are looking to Kamala Harris as though she's some kind of role model for them. They're looking to Kamala Harris as if she can offer them some kind of salvation or guidance, some kind of understanding, some kind of opposition to Trump. And the fact that she's not pursuing the governorship is, in their minds, it's a betrayal. It's faltering, you know. It's weak in a lot of people's minds because it makes it clear that she doesn't really think too much about her electoral. Um, but it's also, there's something to be said for the fact that I think it means something. I don't know exactly what it means, but I think it means something that Kamala Harris is choosing to not run in the 2026 election, where she could take over for Gavin Newsom, who's now termed out. So Gavin is not going to be able to run in the 2026 gubernatorial election in California, but Kamala could. She's not going to. And one of her staffers said that that leaves open the possibility for a 2028 presidential run. I don't think that's going to happen. I would be shocked if it does. But I think that it means something that she doesn't feel. Either she doesn't feel confident enough in her own abilities to take over from somebody who she literally rose in politics right along. Either she doesn't trust herself and her campaign's ability to take over those reins, to take over that role, and leave the party and the state looking better than she came, which would be smart, but unlike her, or she really is eyeing another fucking presidential run. This would be the third unsuccessful Harris presidential run. But we'll just have to wait and see. As a fellow trans person, what the fuck are you actually doing? I don't know. What the fuck are you doing? What is it that I'm doing that you take so much umbrage with, bitch? Man, Forrest, you got problems, bud. I do not share your lack of capacity for socialization. I do these streams because I think they're fun, because people super chat occasionally, and because I don't have to like go somewhere to socialize if, when I do one of these. So there is like that benefit, I guess. But at least once a week I'm out, hanging out at somebody else's house, or they're coming over here and we're hanging out or something like that. So whatever. Oh my god. Can someone get this fucking... Do I have to touch the garbage this time? Jesus Christ. I will literally ban every fucking 2-bit moron that thinks they have some baseless accusation to spin right the fuck up out of this chat. So cut out the bullshit. It will be banned every fucking time. You can't say anymore that our economy is bad or Trump is. Our economy is at an all-time high and low. What? Where are you getting that, Ben? Groceries are not at an all-time low. Where the fuck are you getting that? Gas is not at an all-time low. Where are you getting that? Where, like, what is this? What? Huh? Not only that, but the stock market has been massively in flux since the beginning of the Trump administration. There's been, like, way big ups and downs all over the place because of these fucking needless tariff wars, so I just don't get it. Like, where are you getting the idea that things are lower now? Rent is certainly not lower. I don't rent myself, but I know enough people and have had to house hunt enough in the last 2 years to know that rent has not gotten any lower. The rent has continued to go up, that rents never go down. Ay. This chat is disappointing me right now. All economists are shocked at how... Yeah, that's just wrong. Sorry. You know, these conversations are a lot less fun when you're just, like, talking utter bullshit. That the only refutation of it is like, well, that's inaccurate. Like, I don't know what else I'm supposed to say. You're just factually wrong on that one. Economists are not in broad agreement about the state of the economy, and much less are they in broad agreement that it's fucking universally great. In fact, a lot of the articles that I've read seem to indicate that there's a lot of anxiety and paranoia and, like, reticence in the marketplace right now, because outside of people that are clued into the Trump administration and inside his weird little circle, outside of his billionaire buddies, nobody really knows what's going on at any point in time. So trade volumes are down. So sure, we have the best economy on the planet, but, like, consider that we write the numbers on that, you know? Consider that we get to define the narrative. Can you believe there's another train this quick? Excuse me. How you feel about private ownership and investment in Medicare shit? Pretty shitty. I don't think that there should be any private involvement in healthcare, period. I don't think that healthcare should be a private enterprise. Maybe there are some luxury forms of healthcare that can remain private. Like, if you want to get, like, really fucking heavy forms of plastic surgery, maybe that's something we can leave up to the marketplace. But I think when it comes to all necessary care, including, like, because I know people are going to ask, and yes, I do include trans healthcare in that as well, but I think any necessary healthcare for a human being's mental and physical well-being, I think it should all be taxpayer funded and publicly accountable, rather than funded through individual rates from, like, individual members and group contracts and things like that, and left up to the whims of the marketplace, left up to the whims of shareholders, stockholders, owners. Need to profit should stand in the way of you getting the medicine you need. And I think you'd agree with me if I put us in another situation. If you were drowning and I had a lifeboat, or not a lifeboat, let's say, but a buoy, right? Let's say you were drowning and I had a buoy that I had easy access to, and I see that you're drowning, I see that you're struggling, I see that you're, and I hear that you're saying that you can't swim. If I yell down to you, will you pay me $100 if I rescue you? Am I a bad person? If I let you drown because I refuse to rescue you without extracting profit from the exchange, am I a bad person? Yeah, don't ban Ben. Ben's fine. Going off the rails on a crazy train. Anyway, if you're drowning and I have a buoy or something like that right next to me, I have a life preserver that I could toss you, and I demand that you pay me before I rescue you. Am I a bad person or not? I would say that I would be. I would say that would make you a pretty fucking fundamentally evil person. By the way, make sure you guys hit that like button. It really does help. Every single time you hit that like button is another chance to send the stream to even more people's algorithms, which increases the chances that the stream gets even more interesting by virtue of increasing the number of people that are engaging in the chat at any given point in time. Also, consider sending a super chat if you want to make absolutely sure that your message gets read. I do read every single one as long as it doesn't violate TOS. Hopefully, bro is in a park. She is not in a park. I am in my backyard. Although my backyard does feel like a park sometimes, not gonna lie. I need to really like get out here and start cleaning it up and making it look nice, because like it could have even more park-like features, honestly. How's my favorite gender fluid bitch doing? Well, Silas is good. They're okay. Although they were just messaging me saying they were having problems getting the baby to stay napping, which does suck because they like to nap with our son, but sometimes it's not easy to get those two things to happen at the same time, you know? But other than that, they're good. They started working again, and they're really enjoying that. It's one of the main reasons why you guys haven't seen them on stream for a while. Our dynamic has kind of changed, and it's been fun, but new. Add a big gnome. Yeah, a big gnome is not a bad idea. You know what especially would be really nice? If I could get a gnome seat. Like a 1 to 2 person bench, carved like a giant gnome, holding its hands out or something like that. That would be pretty cool. I bet if I was super rich, I could get that commissioned for like 20 or 30 grand. I want a lawn gnome. Okay, cool. No, I want the biggest lawn gnome you've ever seen. I want the inside of it to be a garden shed. I want the outside of it to be a big set of hands that me and another person can sit in. I want them to be comfortable. So, what can you do me? And then 20 grand later, I would have my contraption. I can't imagine how many pieces of wood that would be a reality, though. Because unless you could cut down like a giant redwood or something, you couldn't get just one big giant fucking piece of wood for it. What's your favorite state? New Mexico for sure. New Mexico's got to be the big one. How did we get out alive? As he lights an American spirit, he asks how I can smoke such shit. Said there's nothing like chain smoking GPC cigarettes. 'Cause any smokes will kill ya, but these will make you feel like it. No, we got report brigaded earlier. That's just the sad thing about trying to do these anymore, is that there is clearly, like, I don't know. This sort of thing has happened a couple of times in the channel's history where I'll get good views on a stream, but it's just like people report brigading, and one time they managed to get my video nuked outright, but I was able to appeal and get it restored and everything, so it didn't end up working out. But it happens every so often, and we have to kind of like recover for a while. Sometimes it behooves me to stream less for a couple of days, because that seems to allow them and their ADHD fucking asses to like find something better to do, I guess. You know, they get kind of bored after a while, and I expect that's what's going on with these streams lately, because it is kind of telling, right, that I, loud, vociferous trans streamer that I've been the whole time, am just now over the last few days starting to see this like consistent fucking activity of like 20-30 minutes into a stream, numbers are just fucking cascading down, suddenly retention numbers are horrible, etc., etc. I tell you what, I wish YouTube would tell you when that shit happens, but I also wish that YouTube would just stop fucking, I don't know, stop allowing people to like report brigade just based on the fact that they don't like somebody. I have a trans flag next to my American one with dinosaurs shooting laser beams and fighter jets. Nice. That's actually pretty dope. Holy shit, it's hot. Well, y'all, I think I might go ahead and get off here since the stream has already kind of gotten nuked. And I don't expect the conversation to pick up anywhere, but We might come back and do another stream later on tonight and maybe cover some of these same topics again. But I will see you guys later for now. Thank you guys for hanging out. Peace.